that are for a $1,200 profit, I'll put it in the bank. Yeah, I'll uncover it from the bank in 9 months, and it's worth considerably more. Of course, you're placing a bet on the market. You're placing a bet on the watch's value. But I know that.
Welcome back to Young Smart Money. My name's Apple Creator, and I'm your host. Now, I haven't had this much fun doing an interview in a while, but sitting down with Christian Zerone was really a pleasure. Christian is a vintage watch collector, and he has a business where he basically finds these watches and he sells them to very high ticket clients. Okay, we're talking watches in the tens of thousands of dollars this dude is dealing with on a daily basis. Okay, and he's very young as well. Okay, this guy is in his early 20s. He is absolutely killing it in the vintage watch space. He's got a lot of wisdom to drop on you if you are thinking about starting a business at a young age, if you are worried about being able to find success in your niche, if you're worried that you don't have the resources to get started, if you're worried that you're not prepared enough to go out there and really build a significant business, this is the interview for you. Christian is going to get you in gear. He's going to give you all the tools you need to get started and to find success in whatever venture you are looking to start. So without further ado, we're going to welcome Christian Zerone on to the show to drop some massive value on you guys. I hope you're ready for it. Enjoy the show. Christian, welcome to Young Smart Money. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. It is my pleasure. So Christian is somebody who's very active in the vintage watch space, which is somewhere that I am not at all familiar with. This is going to be a very enlightening conversation for me, and I'm sure for our listeners as well. So Christian, could you fill us in a little bit on, first of all, just like a 30 to 60 second intro on you and what you are up to right now?
I'm 23. I almost forgot how old I was. I'm 23. I graduated from college, I think 2 years ago. I went to Seton Hall in New Jersey.
Okay.
While there, I was going to be an attorney. I was going to apply to law school, take the LSAT. And I said, you know what? After much prep, this isn't what I want to do. But I don't know what I want to do. I started a vintage watch company. I buy and sell vintage watches. Started off super small. Started with 10 grand, which in the vintage watch game is literally nothing. Most of our competitors start off with at least $1 million.
Wow.
In the last 4 years, we've broken $5 million in sales, probably close to 6 now. So we vintage watches. Yeah.
Exciting. Dang, there's a lot of stuff I want to hop into here. And this is, again, an industry that I have very little knowledge about. So I'm excited to learn. I'm always open to learning about new things. And I think this will be a great opportunity for that. So first thing I want to ask you is at a young age, when you were just starting off, like before you went to college, before you were even in high school, were you the type of kid that was going around door to door, like selling people stuff or like starting lemonade stands or what was that like for you?
I always had a business. I mean, I sold fake IDs.
Oh, wow.
I actually made a fortune selling fake
I
IDs.
bet. Like on campus?
Yeah, all around. But I had kids like from all different schools. I mean, we were doing a couple hundred fake IDs a month. Like it was
Wow.
wow. Yeah, I could totally go to jail for it. Really dumb idea, like bad idea. Like in retrospect, I would kill my son or daughter if they're doing it because it's not stupid. That it's really bad.
Yeah. You get caught for that, and you're in trouble.
Oh, huge trouble. Like that's really against the law. So I did that for a while. Then when that was over, when I realized that was a bad idea. Actually, no. When that trickled out because I was in college and no one needed a fake ID, I started a catering brokerage firm. So I was connecting with pharmaceutical reps who sent lunches to doctors' offices to have their audience. So instead of them calling Panera or a host of 10 or 20 other places, they called me. I was a concierge and I did it. So I made a ton of money there as well because you're middlemaning it. Yeah, everything I've ever really done was just, I don't really do anything. It's just how do I middleman something and maybe market what someone else is providing in a much better way than they can market themselves.
That's a very interesting way of thinking about things because there are so many opportunities to sort of be in that middleman position and sort of get value off of both sides of things. So how did you first get into that concierge service? Like that seems like a very obscure niche.
Yeah, my dad's in pharmaceuticals, so I saw him buy lunches elsewhere from people, and I was like, this is a really interesting idea. You're not spending your money, so you're not really analyzing the price as much, right?
Yeah.
So there's room for margin. Whereas if it's just a regular person, you're going to shop around.
Yeah.
The pharmaceutical reps are using corporate dollars. So when I quoted them 60, 80, 400, $100, $300 over what my cost was, where they could easily go find it themselves, they just didn't really care. They're like, okay, sounds good. It's convenient. It's easy. I'm going to get there. I don't have to worry about it. And the doctor's going to buy stuff. So that was it. The business grew really quickly. I probably had it for about 2 years until I started Theo and Harris, which is my watch company, and then that just became a full-time job.
Very interesting. So you basically just saw this opportunity here of like, all right, these guys have corporate dollars to spend. I can just sort of be somebody that they know of and be that convenience offer.
Yep, exactly right.
Awesome. Awesome. So then transitioning into Theo and Harris, what made you want to get into the vintage watch space? Is that something you've been interested in for a while, or was it kind of just a spur of the moment interest?
It happened when I was interested in watches for like 2 years.
Okay.
So basically till my final year in high school, and it followed me into college. I really was passionate about watches, but as a hobbyist, nothing else. Never
Sure.
considered having a business in it. And at the time, I was certain I was going to law school. There was no doubt in my mind I wasn't. And then week by week, I became less certain and less certain
Mm,
and less certain. And I started to say to myself, "Geez, I just don't think." And it's a thing because you don't know yourself that yet. I was only
yeah.
18, so how well did I know myself? I don't think that I'm going to fit in well in a corporate environment. I don't think I'm going to respond well when some miserable 65-year-old partner tells me after leaving at 11 on Friday, I have to be back in the city on Saturday at 8 a.m. This probably isn't going to work for me, I
Mm,
think. So I went to my mom and I said, "Hey, listen, I would like all of like the birthday money that I've received from aunts and uncles over the course of the last, 20 years. I knew it was in like the $10,000 range, and I said, could I take that and buy vintage watches?" And she was like, "What the heck are you talking about? That sounds ridiculous." So she eventually let me do it. She's like, "Okay, if that's something that you want to do to keep yourself busy instead of getting a real job, fine."
wow.
Not, but I meant real job, like as compared to a college job. Like it
Yeah.
was okay, you could sell vintage watches instead of working in a pizzeria. It
Sure.
was you could sell vintage watches and not go to law
Yeah.
school. And then once I started doing it, I was really bad at it in the beginning. But I was addicted to building business, and it was pretty apparent within a couple of months that I probably was not going to go to law school. Like
Wow.
certainly.
So was there a tipping point where you were like, wow, this is really working, or was it sort of just like slowly over time you're making more and
No,
more?
that's the crazy part. It didn't really work until after I graduated college. Like I
Really?
didn't really make considerable money until after college.
What do you mean
So
considerable? What's considerable to you?
the first year we only did $100,000 in sales, so there's no real room in there to make big money.
Okay.
Uh, Second year we did $300,000 in sales, so we tripled it, and there was something there. The third year we broke like 1.3 million, and then
Wow.
the year we broke 2 million. So
Wow.
there's
That's some
money.
growth. That's some
Yeah,
growth.
there's growth. So there, eventually there was money. But when I was making this decision to leave the track, like conventional successful track, I had really no evidence that this was going to work. I had nothing. Whereas later I had evidence this was going to work. Once I
Yeah.
graduated college, by that October, I realized, yep, this is going to work. I'm going to be just fine.
Okay.
But before that, I was like, oh crap, I just
Yeah.
made a drastic decision my mother hates me for, and I don't even have any evidence it's going to work. Am I nuts? You know what I mean? So yeah.
What made you take that leap? Like so many people, if they've been doing that for a while and they don't see like the results that they're really looking for and they can really prove to them that it's working, like what made you want to take that leap?
I think a lot of ego. I'm very introspective, or I'm very self-aware,
Okay.
or a lot of things. So I feel like once you say something a certain amount of times, as long as you're being reasonable, you kind of have to do it now, because
Hmm.
look at the way I look now. I've been telling people that I'm building a watch company, that I'm an entrepreneur for 6 months, and now I'm just going to drop it and go to law school. What are the optics there? And maybe that matters. Maybe those people do know something that I don't. So it really was a lot of gut. Again, I had no real evidence it was going to work, but I said, let's just take this shot. I think that's the person I want to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So in that first year, you said you invested about $10,000. Was it in that same year that you did 100,000 in sales?
Yeah.
How did that 10,000 scale to 100,000?
I know. That's kind of it's kind of
Yeah.
crazy. I remember when I started the business. So we did the business totally like on paper from day one, which is really weird in the vintage watch industry, because almost no one does that. Everyone does like
Really?
everything
Under the table.
total sketchy under the table.
Huh.
I might have done that, like being a stupid kid, but my mom was involved, so she was like, "No, you're going to the
Yeah.
bank, you're starting a bank account, you're doing this legit," which was 100% the right way.
Yeah.
But I remember being at the bank starting up this account, and the woman was like, "Well, how much, to gauge the size of the account? Whatever. I don't know why that matters, but what do you think you'll do this year in sales?" And she's like, do you think 30,000? And I looked at my mom and I was like, that's triple. I don't know. It sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, maybe 30. And then we did 100. So
Wow.
yeah, it was pretty cool.
That's unreal. So you invested this $10,000 into like, I don't even have a concept
Inventory,
of how much watches
nothing
cost.
else. I've never spent really a dollar on marketing.
Really?
It's all been inventory. Yeah. So I bought, cheap watches in the beginnings. I didn't have a lot of money.
Cheap meaning.
To give you a point of reference, I
Yeah.
wear watches, not because I'm, it's because I wear them because of my inventory. I'm not saying I wear watches that are expensive.
Sure.
I have inventory watches on a daily basis that are 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, $60,000.
Wow.
Oh yeah, and that's not even a big deal compared to what other people do. I'm
What?
small. We're still a small company compared to other vintage watch companies. So that's what watches cost, to give you a point of reference.
That's absurd.
So with 10 grand, you could buy like one good watch.
Yeah.
So instead of buying one great watch, I started buying small and expensive watches that were $200, $300, $700. Flip them, try to make $110 profit, which was
Okay.
because you're never going to really, I was never going to make a real business out of that. And I remember doing it and working really hard. And one day, my dad, who's not an entrepreneur, but he's pretty good at business. He gets it pretty well. He looks at me and he's like, how many hours do you think you worked this week? And I was like, I don't know, like this many hours, a lot. A lot. And he's like, how many sales did you make? And I told him, and he's like, how much money did you make? And it was nothing. It was less than $1,000. It was something like $610.
Sure.
And he's like, so you worked, for argument's sake, 85 hours this week, right? You talked about nothing but watches in 6 months. You sold, you did a decent amount of transactions.
Yeah.
And you made $600. Like, is that what you want your business to be? And I was like, wow, thank you.
Say it like it is.
Like, gotta be an ass, So, but he was right. I was working for like 80 cents an hour, basically. It was crazy. So he said, you have to invest, in more expensive watches. I understand they're more risky. And he knew nothing about watches. Listen, I know they're more risky, but it's going to pay off. Just do it. So I started buying slightly more expensive watches, 2,000, 3,000. And it was so nerve wracking, but it worked.
Wow. So give us some context here for our listeners who might be wanting to start some kind of hustle where they're flipping stuff. Where were you finding these watches, and then where were you selling them with little to no marketing?
At the time, I was buying on eBay and auctions, like not big auctions. What are they called? Garage sales.
Okay.
Stuff like that. You're buying, cheap stuff of, fairly low importance or quality. And you're just trying to sell it for an extra $50 because really when it comes to something with no comps in the market, what's the difference between 200 and 275? Nothing. It's the same thing, right? It's just a price tag. Considering there are no comps in the market, it's just an odd thing you've never seen before and it's 275. Okay, I'll buy it.
Are most watches like that, where they're not super comparable to other things?
In vintage, it becomes very difficult. There definitely are watches with comps, but in vintage, it's difficult because there are so many nuances. And condition is super important. So even though I could own a watch they made 8,000 of, there may only be 10 in the world of this condition.
Really?
So mine's worth 80,000 and the rest are worth 6. It's very common to happen. Wow. So, so that's how we started, basically cheap sites and just putting a brand on it and standing behind it, which was very important, but that was it.
Was there ever a risk that you were getting fake watches at these like lower quality auctions?
You know what? There's a larger risk of getting fake watches at expensive places. Yeah. Well, is it really worth faking a $180 watch? Not really. Is it worth faking a $9,000 watch? Oh, yeah. So I would never buy off of like eBay or any of those places now because we buy more expensive inventory and you stand far too much to lose.
That's very interesting. And yeah, I guess, I mean, that makes sense. Like who's going to bother faking a $100 watch? Right. That could be faking a $10,000 watch.
Right. Exactly.
All right. So you were finding these watches at these low scale auctions, and then how were you selling them? You said you had put a brand together. Did you have your own company website or what did that look like?
I launched with a website. So we launched on February 13th of 2000 and what was it? 15. I have a watch in the back that says
Oh,
that.
yeah.
So of 15, and we had with TheoAndHarris.com. So
Okay.
if nothing else, it gave a feeling of security, and it gave a personality.
Yeah.
Didn't really become a strong personality until later. It didn't become important until much, much later, but we didn't really find a voice until a year later. But we started a brand. If nothing else, we
Okay.
started a brand.
So how are you getting people to the website if you weren't doing much marketing?
It was all on Instagram, and I was running my Instagram, the Theo and Harris Instagram, and we had no followers, and I just was dedicated to posting 1 to 3 times a day,
Wow.
and just killing it. And at the time, Instagram obviously rewards you for interesting content, and doesn't reward you for uninteresting
Yeah.
content. So it was very difficult to post interesting content when our watches were by and large uninteresting.
Mm,
People don't admire $104 vintage watches.
sure.
They admire vintage Rolex. So once you get into this game, and your watches get better, your content for Instagram just exponentially
Yeah.
increases, and your followers. So in the beginning, I was just sludging or marching through crap every day, and just trying to build through consistency.
100%. So what's the difference between like a $104 watch and like a $10,000 watch? Like how do you even measure?
Yeah, it's really interesting. It comes down to brand is the
Okay.
biggest thing. It comes down to quality and condition, brand quality and condition. That's what makes desirability.
Hmm.
So for argument's sake, there are vintage Patek Philippe's, which is one of the world's premier maker of quality watches,
Okay.
that are $7,000, right? But there are Rolexes, which are made. Rolexes are great watches,
Mhm.
but from a technical perspective, they're much more simple and pedestrian than Patek Philippe's.
Hmm.
And the Rolexes, which are inferior technically, could be worth 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 grand. Why? Because of their importance. People collect this particular model more than the Patek. So it becomes almost like it becomes a game of reading or balancing this. Okay, what are the assets of this watch? What are the downfalls? I appreciate it, but does the world appreciate it enough? How many are out there? So if there are a dime a dozen, I don't really have movement in price. But if it's a rare watch that I can create demand around, I
Hmm.
can kind of charge not whatever I want, but I can kind of create a market. You
Okay.
know. So it is complicated. I mean, there are
Yeah.
harder jobs, but it is fairly complicated to understand.
But something you enjoy.
Oh, I love it. I mean, and anyone could grasp it fairly quickly, but to be in it every day is dangerous. I mean, it's a lot of money. It's changing hands. It's markets that are being made, markets that are being broken on a weekly basis. So you can lose a fortune in this business. I mean, you can lose a fortune. I've met men that have lost fortunes.
Jeez. Have you had any significant losses yourself when you were starting off, or was it mostly
I've never really lost money on a watch.
really?
I don't think I've ever actually lost money on a watch,
Wow.
but I've been stolen from. I have had real problems with credit card processing companies. That's
Really?
another really big thing. Yeah, small companies, which I guess is what a lot of your viewers are interested in starting.
Yeah.
You have no leverage when it comes to these credit card processing companies. They don't really care about you. If you're doing $100,000 a year, you're no one to Stripe. Like
Yeah.
you're a pimple, right? So when you have a problem, they don't have your back at all. They
Mm.
couldn't care less about your problem. So I was in the shower. It was Thanksgiving Day, like 2 years after I started the company, and I got a bunch of emails, and there were $24,000 in chargebacks, stolen, fake credit cards, stolen watches.
Oh my God.
So I lost 24 grand basically, and Stripe could not care less. They were a terrible, terrible company. I couldn't advise against them more.
Wow.
I tried to explain to the people, you don't understand. I mean, you approved the charge. You
Yeah.
approved it. You told me to ship. You're the credit card company. Why am I being screwed? They're like, sorry, sir, it's in the fine print. It's really, really bad. So I don't think that people, young people, especially kids that grew up in nice neighborhoods and kids that grew up, pretty
Yeah.
privileged,
Pretty well off.
we don't get like people are out to get you a little bit. Like companies
They're not looking out for you.
no, they're not, So I grew up in a place that was, kids grew up, and I was one of the tougher kids, but still, even I was feeling naive. Whereas my dad grew up in the ghetto, and he was like, super pessimistic and super cynical from day one. And my mom was always like, Rolando, stop it. Like, child. You can't, jade him, like make him jaded, it's terrible. But he was probably right.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild. That's a significant, I mean, at that point, was that a significant loss for you?
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, I was 2 years in. So sure, I had done $100,000 in sales, or I'd done 120, but how
Jeez.
much cash did I have at that moment? Not a lot. Maybe I had 30 grand in cash. They stole 24. I had a lot of inventory,
Wow.
So great. Now I have 4 grand or 6 grand. How do I run this business on 6 grand?
Yeah.
And how long before I build up an inventory again, or build up cash again? So it was scary. I mean, it was the worst Thanksgiving ever. That's for sure.
Jeez. I bet. So
Oh yeah.
on average, like how long are you sitting on a watch for? Like how fast do
It
these things move?
depends, man. You know what's kind of
Okay.
funny? Like I buy certain watches and flip them in 6 hours or 2 hours.
Wow.
I buy stuff and put it in the safe and don't look at it for months. Like there are
Really?
watches that I like. For example, Rolex GMT Master, right? Invented in the 1950s. It was conceived to kind of go on the wrist of the jet set, the people that were traveling all over the world at the time,
Hmm.
all over America, important people.
Sure.
This watch is increasing in value now rapidly. My mom gave my dad one 10 years ago for 4 grand. Now they're worth like 13,
Wow.
right? So instead of selling one right now for a $900 profit or for a $1,200 profit, I'll put it in the bank. I'll uncover it from the bank in 9 months, and it's worth considerably more. Of course, you're placing a bet on the market. You're placing a bet on the watch's value. But I know this game pretty well, and that watch isn't going anywhere but up. So
Hmm.
why sell it? Why make
Yeah.
800 when I can make 1900 in 9 months, or 8 months? So it's very circumstantial.
That's very interesting. So how cyclical is the watch market, or like what does it look like as far as like trends go?
It's built of micro markets, as well as like everything
Okay.
else. I mean, everything is so different. Paul Newman Daytona, it's a vintage Rolex chronograph. They were $10,000-$20,000 watch in the 90s.
Mhm.
um, they sell now between 100 and a million, 100,000 and $1 million a piece. So yeah, that's a good example. Paul Newman's watch himself, Paul Newman sold for 18 million at auction.
Wow.
18 million bucks. I was there. It was wild. Uh, it was unbelievable. So watches are hot. I mean, it is a big thing. There are a lot of people have a lot of money, man, and they don't know. One, they don't know what to do with it. Is like what we always say. Like a lot of people just have so much money they don't know what to do. But a
Mhm.
lot of people are really very smart with it. They're not just buying things that they want. They're buying things because they're educated and they know that it's going to be ultimately a really, really good investment. So it becomes an asset class. You didn't just put it this way. You invest in real estate. $4
Mhm.
million is not a lot of money to invest in real estate, right? You can't buy a big building for $4 million.
Sure.
But a $4 million watch is top in the world.
I would imagine
So,
so.
and there's no maintenance, more of a passive income kind of thing. So although you're not collecting cash every
Mhm.
month, in theory, this watch is increasing in value. It's only sitting in a bank. And not only do I get to enjoy it as the billionaire that I am in this scenario, and everyone knows that I own it, which is a huge publicity thing, but I'm making money every year, in theory.
Yeah.
It happens that way quite often. It happens that way very often.
That's very interesting. Wow. There's
Yeah.
so much to this industry that I just had no concept of. Can
Oh,
you
yeah.
can you share with our listeners a story of maybe one of the most expensive watches that you've ever purchased, or like one of the coolest stories?
Yeah, there was a watch. I'm trying to think. I have so many stories of expensive watches. For example, this one comes to mind. I bought and sold a watch, a Rolex Submariner in yellow gold with a presidential bracelet. So if you're a watch guy, the Rolex Submariner was one made in steel predominantly. So gold models are both polarizing and rare.
Okay.
But the bracelet was the really special part. These watches came on almost always one particular kind of bracelet, and I had one on a different kind of bracelet.
Hmm.
So to the normal person, they may say, okay, well, what's the difference? It's a different style.
Yeah.
No, when they were making 1,000 in one style and two in another, that becomes an extremely collectible watch. So that watch demands this the style of bracelet. It's no more gold. It's no more anything. The
Mhm.
style of bracelet could demand $10,000 or $15,000. Just the style, You know, it's
Wow.
hysterical. That watch I think sold at 40 grand to a really great client, to a wonderful guy. But you know, I just sold a wonderful Patek Philippe. I sold that for somewhere in the mid 40s off to a client in Hong Kong.
Wow.
It never ends. I mean, it really never ends.
So do you mostly do business with some like a few really high profile individuals, or is it very spread out?
Not really. I mean, I'm definitely not one of the dealers that's known for having high profile clients. I have some.
Okay.
I have some clients that it's funny. Like I'm such an unimportant person in the world. Comparably, you know, I'm just a kid selling watches and building a small business. But there are people that I sit with, and I'm like, you actually control very important things in this world. Like this is weird.
Wow.
You know, it's cool. I laugh because my dad and I say like I'm totally unqualified to have dinner with this person, right? Like there are a million people that would kill for this, and in business it would never happen, right? But we're here because we both like watches. Our common ground is a passion, you know. So that's an amazing opportunity. But there are dealers that have built their whole businesses on being the dealer to the stars. There are a couple of guys out in California that put Rolexes on Ellen DeGeneres weekly. You know, it's amazing.
Wow, that's really interesting. So like where I mean, I'm not somebody who is super I mean, I'm not well versed in watches at all, but like where does the interest come from in watches? Like where what makes people so drawn to these things?
A lot of things. I mean, mass market people are
Okay.
drawn to them because they're jewelry. You
Sure.
know, as far as most people, okay, it's a Rolex. It's a thing that yells "I'm rich." You
Hmm.
know, but once you get into the vintage world, it becomes much more nuanced. You're talking about history. You're talking about something again as an asset class. You're talking about something that, on a personal level, means more to you than almost all other things because one, it is a significant thing, but it will be there forever. So, for instance, um, what's a good example? Cartier. Cartier is a great example. They're good watches. They're really good watches. Some of my favorite, you know, brand in the world.
Okay.
But I can't tell you how many times I've sold a Cartier to a client, and their sentiment was, "My dad had one of these." Like,
Hmm.
this is really cool, man. Like I remember like sitting there like in the living room and he'd read a book and we'd hang out, and like I don't know where his is, but I'm so glad that I can like have one and be like him. Like
Dang.
that is, and those are moments that are awesome because it's
Yeah.
not material. It's not about, oh, I'm rich. It's about like this thing means something to me that is greater than the time. Time means nothing, and is greater than how much it costs. You know, it's emotional.
Hmm. That's very interesting. What kind of watch are you wearing right now?
Right now, I'm wearing a vintage Piaget. It's an ultra thin watch. At one point, I believe it was the thinnest watch movement in the world, which is
Wow.
pretty cool. Now it's still thin, but not so thin compared to, you know, some modern pieces. My taste is a little bit more obscure. I like things that are medium investments, not the best investments.
Okay.
Just my taste, you know, tends to just be a little bit more odd as opposed to mass market. But you know, we do like consulting for some big guys that want to build really just an investment,
Hmm.
you know, just investment portfolio. That's really interesting too. I have a
Huh.
client out in Malta that just wants to have a safe full of watches he could theoretically enjoy, but watches that will be worth, you know, a considerably larger amount in 20 years. You know, it's an interesting market.
That is that there's yeah, wow. This is just an area that I had no knowledge of, and it's very interesting to be able to sit down with you and learn about this.
Yeah.
So I want to dive more into sort of your entrepreneurial journey and starting this business now, backing off of the watch side of things a bit. And can you sort of share with us who were the mentor figures in your life when you were starting this business? Because I'm assuming you had some people you were looking up to.
Yeah, my dad gave me some great advice.
Okay.
He's a very quiet guy, but every time he did like open his mouth about it, he nine times out of ten, it's something very, very insightful
Hmm.
to say, and many times something that sorry,
No worries.
and many times something that ultimately ended up being, you know, hugely impactful to my business. My dad told me to go on YouTube. Like our business right now is successful because of our YouTube channel,
Wow.
by and large. We do probably more business on YouTube than any other medium. And my dad, we were writing articles at the time, and my dad was like, "What the hell are you doing with this article crap?" He's like, "Get on YouTube, like be passionate, let people see your face, let people get to know you. You're going to sell more watches."
Yeah.
You know, it's stuff like that. So my dad was a great mentor. I look up to a lot of people in my family for a lot of different reasons. I work a lot, but my greatest pleasures are probably ultimately derived from family. So in
Mm.
different ways, my family is my great inspiration. And then I got to meet, like I told you, such brilliant people that I would never have otherwise had the opportunity to sit down with in business. So they became great advisors. I have some very few, but some wonderful friends now that are tremendously successful. I mean, owning companies that are worth dozens upon dozens of millions of dollars that I can like text for advice or like catch up over Negronis and like hear about their problems and they hear about mine. And I leave like knowing like, you know what I mean? Like you can't
Yeah.
pay for that.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very lucky, believe me.
Oh, that's huge. That's so huge. And that's one
And
of the
one
biggest
thing
things.
yeah, one thing I think is super relevant to your audience base, what
Yeah.
you'll find out is there are so many guys out there that are in their 30s and 40s and 50s that are still young enough to be hip and tuned in to what's going on and how to build a big business that will take such quick interest in someone that's 17, 18, 19, 20,
Oh yeah.
impart so much knowledge because they're like, you know, it gets to a point where you have enough money. Right, these guys they have enough money. How much money do you need? It gets boring after a while. It's no longer an achievement.
Yeah.
But if I can school this kid, or if this kid's success can be even partially to my credit, that's cool.
That's a legacy.
They love that. So that's some of the things that I've really been able to build so much on, and your audience should definitely understand that. And don't reach out
100%.
to me when someone wants to help because
Yeah.
never know.
Oh, when you can find somebody who's in that position that you want to get to and they're willing to like give you some of their time or just like willing to let you work for free for them, like that
Yeah,
is huge. That's how I've grown multiple businesses, is just like
yeah,
offering to work for people for free, building
yep.
that relationship, building that rapport, and then from there you just have that connection.
Yeah, and it's the way you conduct yourself is so different. We can even tell speaking to you. I mean, how old are you?
I'm 20.
So, I mean, speaking to you, and I'm only 23, so you and I are basically the same age. But it's funny. It's not like talking to a 20-year-old or a 23-year-old, right? Because you're constantly surrounded by people that are older and more experienced, and they have real businesses and
Yeah.
all that stuff. So you end up speaking to people in a business relationship that are older. They're your clients. Ultimately, older people are typically the decision makers,
Hmm.
and they forget that you're 20. Like
Yeah.
they don't really care. I don't really care that you're 20. Like the way you're behaving, I forget. That's what happens, especially on these big deals and stuff. You're probably not going to sign $1 million contract with a 23-year-old. Odds are,
Yeah.
some of these businesses. But if you can behave in a mature fashion, it's very valuable.
100%. And a lot of times that age, people think like, oh, I'm too young. No one's going to take me seriously. But
Yes.
for me, I've been using that as an advantage. Like when I was, man, I wish I was still 19. I just turned 20 and I'm like, dang, there's such a big difference between saying I'm 19 and saying I'm 20. Because if I'm 19 and I conduct myself in a way that they see me as like a professional and somebody who knows what they're talking about, that's so valuable because they're like, wow, this kid is ahead of the game. This kid is really getting
Yeah.
after it. Like I look up to that. I admire that. That's like, I see myself in that. So
Yep.
I really do use my age as an advantage.
Definitely, definitely, and I think another virtue is figuring out who your audience is, and although you don't know who let's say it's a 38-year-old guy
Sure.
from New York, right? Who you're pitching to, or who, whatever. I can't tell you how many times I've obviously researched my pitch like anyone else would. You perfect your offering and you figure out how am I going to close this deal. But then you think, okay, what is a 34-year-old from New York like? Who is this person, right? What kind of cultural things does he know that I otherwise wouldn't? Like, how can I connect
Mhm.
with him on that level? Because that's just so valuable. I grew up in kind of an old family, so I kind of knew a lot of things about, the 80s, 70s, 60s, 50s. So I was able to connect with some of my clients in such a deep level, like The
Huh.
Honeymooners is a television show, I think from the 50s,
Take your word for
that
that.
I could recite like no one else. No one my age has seen that. I only saw it because I had no friends, and my grandma used to watch it. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't grow up watching that because it was on TV. You know, but now you're able to connect with people of a different age, right?
Mm.
Schooling yourself and all those things. When you're young, you have to catch up, right? You
Yeah.
have to catch up on shit like that. And if your goal is to be someone who can connect with these decision makers on a personal level, which it should be, you got to do your research. You got to pretend as if you were born 30 years ago. You have to, you know?
100%, 100%. It's all about being able to speak whoever you're trying to work with's language, because when you speak their language, they're instantly going to connect with you so much faster, and you're just going to have that
100%.
rapport built so much faster.
Yeah, and that's why people, I always make a joke. Like everyone's like, oh, it's, deals happen on the golf course. I, I don't golf. I have no desire to golf. Nothing. I
Yeah.
can tell you this. Like maybe a boys talk on the golf course. I don't know, but 9 times out of 10, man, you put a drink in a guy's hand, and you sit down and you level about something that they're passionate about. And I don't care how well you play golf. It does not. It doesn't even. Does just open your eye, open your ears, shut your mouth, wait for the right moment, and then you give your little spiel. And even if it's a 30-second spiel, you weave it right in. That's where I've found that deals have been made. Now, again, my deals are very small compared to other people's, so maybe there's other advice that is much better, much more effective. But in my experience, just that's the way to go, man. Have a ice cold drink, a nightcap, and just talk.
Well, I might have to see if your fake ID business is still up and running, because
That's funny,
don't think I have access.
Business, I couldn't have a drink. So when clients who were much older than me, they're like, "Oh, let's meet up for a drink, and maybe I'll buy the watch." I used to just pray no one would card me, because I had a fake ID. But how embarrassing is?
That'd be.
You're about to buy an $8,000 watch, and I'm going to get denied with my fake ID. Like how awful is that? So I was very nervous many times.
Oh my God, that's ridiculous.
Legally drink, so deals are much easier with. I don't have to run into the fake ID.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Another thing that I'm curious about is, at this point, you have built a team, and your business is no longer just you. So can you sort of talk about that process, and when you decided to start bringing on additional help?
I had a small team from day one.
Really?
When I first started, my mom helped me just because
Okay.
she was my mom. She
Yeah.
helped me with some shipping when I was in college. Anna is our director of content and advertising.
Okay.
She's worked for me basically from day one. She took photos and then content and all that stuff. Aaron's our webmaster. Again, day one employee, built the website.
Wow.
And over the 4 years, I've not only given them considerably more responsibility, but I've hired 1 or 2 to 2, 3 more freelancers to work. So I'm kind of say, like, I'm not good at that much, so I don't pretend to be. I'm not. I mean, yeah, ultimately, if you're the CEO, you're the wearer of a million hats, but really, I like to defer to the people who are paid to do it, people who are professional, people who have way more experience than I do. I guess I'm controlling in a way, but I'm really not. I'm super laid back, because that's why it's your job, right? Because like I gave you the job because you're better at it than me. So why am I going to micromanage you? I never thought this company would be me alone. I just never envisioned it like that. I think I had a fairly big picture understanding from the start.
Wow.
Comparably.
So have you had people from day one? Were you paying them from day one, or were you giving them equity, or what did that look like?
Oh yeah, no, I'm the sole owner. So again, another thing I understood from day one was the importance of equity. Kids, don't give away equity. I don't have to, because it's fucking stupid thing to do. I'm just kidding. You can have a partner and still make a fortune. There's no doubt. And more importantly, be happy. But but I was going to take on a partner. I got an offer to buy out a big portion of the company a couple of years ago. And I was going to meet up with a friend before that, the night before, for dinner. And he said to me, he kind of knew that I was entertaining this idea. It was like 30% of the company. Okay. And he was like, "It's a really bad idea." I was like, "I'm sorry?" And he was like, "It's a really bad idea. You're going to regret it for the rest of your life."
Oh my.
And I was like, "Why?" Like, I started the business with $10,000, and for 30%, I can get a lot more than that now. So why wouldn't I sell it? Right. And then he gave, the big spiel about, ultimately as the owner, you should take it as far as you can until you're no longer, the right CEO or the right owner or whatever it is. And then you sell it. That's fine. But he said, you take on a partner when 1 + 1 = 3, right? If 1 + 1 = 2, you're just splitting it.
Yeah.
So you get the same in the end. Now you report to someone. That's bad. Like, this is stupid. right? But if it equals 3, now there's a benefit here,
Yeah.
So it didn't equal 3. The partner I was considering on taking was not the right partner for me, and for a lot of reasons, and I didn't. And Jesus, thank God that they did not sell that, because that I don't know what I'd be doing right now. I would hate my life, I think.
Wow, really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I would hate it.
That's a really valuable nugget, though, because a lot of people will think, all right, I need to have like 8 co-founders going into this. Somebody's on marketing, somebody's on design.
Everyone does that. What are you, a moron? What I don't understand. Why do you need partners? What do you mean? Partners for what? You own nothing. What does this even mean? The prospect of success? No. It's my idea. I'm the founder. I'd like you to direct marketing. I'll pay you for it. And if you don't have the money, then you figure something out. You figure something out. There's always money. So go pick up golf balls, for $100. Go caddy. You find a way to pay these people, and ultimately you're going to be way happier. So what? So you didn't want to pay this guy. He probably would have taken 10 grand to consult for you over the course of the year, because he has a regular job anyway, right? So for 10 grand, you gave away 20% of your company? Are you serious? Are you nuts? You find the 10 grand, okay? Or you make it 7 and you find the 7.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I mean, I never considered giving away equity after that. And I probably will never sell a piece of the company until I sell the whole thing.
Wow. That's huge. That's huge. And looking at the long term is so essential. So many people get caught up in the short term of like, oh my gosh, I could take this person on today and we'll do all these things and it'll be amazing. But like,
and you know what the answer is there? Everyone wants to own $1 billion imaginary business, right? They want to have an e-board. One of my friends and I, we laugh all the time. I love when someone like starts a Facebook page, or like they have like a business. Like, oh, I'm a CEO.
Oh,
I'm a director. I go, oh, I'm sorry. I'm a CMO. Like I'm the vice president of.
Oh my.
I said, oh wow, so he's really funny. He commented one time on one of these posts, like, where they went on the on Facebook Live or something, like, oh, I'm the CMO of this, some bullshit Facebook page that started 6 months ago, and he who is an actual
like a real business person.
Yeah, he commented, this is so interesting listening to this. Let me ask you, perspective from the C-suite, and he starts, and the person was like, what? Like, what do you mean? Because this is baloney. It's not making this something it isn't. You're not a CEO. I sort of myself as a CEO before, but I never do. I'm a director. I direct the company. That's it. It's CEO. We do $2.5 million a year. There's no CEO that runs a business that does $2.5 million. It's not enough money. It's ridiculous. You sound like an idiot. I'll be the CEO when it's a big company. Then and even then I might reject that title because it sounds so pompous.
Wow.
I don't like it. I really don't. I really don't like the title.
100%, dude. There's just so many people out there who are playing pretend, and they have all their, like you said, imaginary businesses that are
imaginary billionaires. I own an imaginary billionaire business. It's really cool.
I love that term.
I did a competition in college. It was like a grand prize was like $6 grand. It was a business idea.
Sure.
And I remember my Theo and Harris concept at the time. It existed. The company existed.
Okay.
And at the time, maybe we did 100 grand in sales, probably year one. Mm-hmm. And so it wasn't a great business. Like, there's nothing fancy about this. Like, I sell watches online and we made 50 grand this year. Like, like it's kind of like, you could be a teacher and make 50 grand. So this is not that impressive, right? But it was a real business, right? It was real. It was something that could be built upon. And that was my pitch, right? I'm the only person standing up here that actually has something that's real, and I am building it.
Yeah.
So people got up there and they gave these, some guy wanted to be the next Uber, right? And no, like not just like the Uber of something. No, he wanted to like actually compete with Uber. And I laughed and I was like, is this fucking guy serious? Are we kidding? But I remember sitting in the seat and almost being certain I wouldn't win, because I said, they're going to love that. The judges are going to love this fake $1 billion idea, and I'm going to lose because my thing is factually unimpressive. His is impressive in the imaginary world, right? So I actually ended up winning. Thank God for the judges. But I just remember being so disheartened. Everyone gets funding too now. Everyone gets funding, and they have $3 million in their bank account. Now they're rich. I'm like, no. You took basically like a loan.
Yeah,
like, you're actually in debt now. We're in Aspen skiing.
Oh my God. Yeah, dude. That's yeah. There's some kind of culture going on out here.
Yeah, young people in business are the worst. Like I love this, right? But by and large, so many young entrepreneurs, they're phony balonies.
Mm.
Want to pretend to be rich. They want to pretend to be important. Like they don't take shit from the man. That's not what this is. This is a totally different, all-encompassing lifestyle that, at least for me, often wish it wasn't the case because it can really corrode other things in life because you're so all invested in it. It's not a bragging point. I don't look at this as a bragging point. I think it's what you are, and sometimes it's good, and sometimes it really really sucks. But
Mm.
the narrative is super cool. Like, I'm my own boss and I make a lot of money. You know what I mean? Like, get out of here, moron. I hate that. I hate it.
100%, dude. How do you find balance in all that you do?
Uh, God, cured meats and wine. I mean, I take my time on, many times during the week on enjoying a really great glass of wine or multiple, and having a really good meal with my family. Usually that's what I love to do. I tried the whole, going out. When I hired a lot of people, I had a lot less work. I've only now been really busy for like the last 2 weeks again. I took like 3 months, quote unquote, off. Not because I intentionally did it, because I had no work. Other people were doing my work for me. So I was like in this weird zone. So I
Mm.
tried to start like dating. I was trying to like go out and meet girls, and I was going on dates all the time. And I thought that was like, that entertainment was going to be fun. And that was going to balance my life out. It was the worst, man. It was so bad. Oh my God. It was so bad. But for me, it just comes down to, enjoying really, really quality time with family and friends.
100%. All right, Christian, you've been dropping a ton of value on our listeners today. I've already learned a ton about both the watch business and your entrepreneurial journey. We're going to hop into some of the questions that I like to ask all of my guests. Are you feeling ready for it?
I'm ready, man.
All right, perfect. The first of which is, what are you excited about right now? This could be something in your business, in the wider landscape of entrepreneurship, the world. What's something you're excited about?
Well, as far as business is concerned, I'm starting the advertising branch of Theo and Harris. We're all retail now. We're doing ads, and I feel like I'm starting over again. I feel like I own a very unsuccessful, unimportant branch of a business.
Hmm.
So to be able to redo this, which is hard and miserable, is kind of, in a masochistic way, very fun. So I'm excited.
Hmm. That's very interesting. That's very interesting. Yeah, starting fresh is always both a blessing and just a terrible, terrible thing.
Miserable curse, yeah. But when it's over, I can say, the retail Theo and Harris wasn't a fluke. We did it twice,
Hmm.
so we'll see.
I love it. I love it. The next thing is, what habits have served you most in your life? These can be business or lifestyle.
Good question. I don't really have all too many habits. Only now I've recently like picked up like going to the gym really early or things like that. But as a whole, it's just this complete, all-encompassing emotional dedication to what I'm doing, because you're forced to succeed. Otherwise, you're miserable. It's really bad advice because you can get really messed up
Yeah.
because it hurt, it sucks.
Yeah.
But from a build a business and be successful point of view, it does work because it's like you're standing on top of a fire.
100%. 100%. Are you consuming any content right now? I know you guys are putting out a lot of YouTube content, but are there any YouTube creators, podcasts, blogs, books that you're reading? What are you consuming right now?
Good question. I'm always consuming. I like a lot of movies. I really don't read books. I'm reading a book right now called Advocacy. I just started it. But no, I don't. I watch movies. I watch old movies.
Really, like what kind of movies are your favorites?
It's funny. I love Woody Allen. I love Martin Scorsese. I love old Scorsese movies like
Hmm.
Mean Streets. It's one of his first films. Alice doesn't live here anymore. Old, 60s stuff. That
Interesting.
really beautiful. Yeah.
Wow. I haven't seen any movies.
It's
by any of these
cool.
people.
It's cool. Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. All right. Yeah, that's one that I haven't heard before in the people that I've interviewed. So it's a cool thing.
Yeah.
What's something that you do in your business? I'm sure there's a lot of these things with the vintage watch company, but like stuff that you do that has like a personal like Theo and Harris touch, or like a personal, aspect to it that couldn't be mass produced. So quick example of what I do is I'll every single day I'll send like 5 to 10 video direct messages on Instagram to a couple random followers, just be like, hey, what's up? My name's Apple. If there's any way that I can help you, let me know. Have a wonderful day. And that's something that's not like super.
That's really smart. That's actually, I might steal that.
Do it.
I answer a lot of Instagram messages that are off topic. They don't really serve to benefit me in the short term, but more of like personal equity kind of thing in people's hearts. But I've implemented a system that is very accommodating to people that offer no money. Like it's not a sales inquiry. It's more of a, hey, we're fans, or hey, can you write my boyfriend a birthday card or something like that. So I definitely put stress on personally giving our fans attention.
I like that a lot. Yeah, there's a lot to be said about that personal touch and really doing things that impact people.
Everyone expects you to be attentive when they're offering you money, right? That's a layup. I'm offering you $6,000. Of course I have your attention.
Yeah.
What are you going to give me when I'm not offering you $6,000? You know what I mean? So
100%. Well, Christian, you've been dropping a ton of value on our listeners today. If they want to go find out more about you, Theo and Harris, what you are up to, where should we send them, and where should they look for in the show notes to find your stuff?
If you're interested in watches, head on over to theoandharris.com or watch content, Theo and Harris on YouTube. If you're not interested in watches, if you couldn't care less about watches, and there are the people out there, shoot me an email, info@theoandharris.com, talk about business or anything like that. Like I said before, I am very attentive, and I will not just do my best, but I will get back to you and we will talk about business. So I am more than happy to do that.
Amazing. I'll link all of those up in the show notes below. Thanks, so you guys can check that out and follow up with Christian over there. Christian, do you have any last words of wisdom for our listeners? Any parting thoughts that you want to leave the listeners of Young Smart Money with today?
Oh yeah, and it's kind of scary. Like if you're listening to this and you're 18 and you think like, oh, your whole life's ahead of you and like you have so long to do business, you're wrong. You should have started 3 years ago. Right? Like I think 15-year-olds, like those are the guys. Those are the guys that are ahead of the game.
Oh,
right? Like you're 20, you're on par. Like you're not that far ahead. I'm 23. I'm late. Like this is rough. I envy like the 15 and 14-year-olds. I have an idea. I'm like, okay, well, think about it for 2 more weeks. Make sure it's the right idea and fucking do it.
Yeah.
It really is getting to be too late. Sorry. Start something. Hurry up.
100%, dude. I just got off a phone call with a 15-year-old earlier today who's crushing it. And I'm like, dude, I wish I was 15 again. You have so many opportunities to you.
So much wasted time I spent on Jordan Smith. Like what? Like stupid time. Like worrying about what that girl, like girls. Ugh, no way. Let's build business, man.
100%, y'all. Get after it. Doesn't matter how old you are. It's never too early. Christian, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. I appreciate you choosing to spend it here with our listeners on Young Smart Money. Thank you again very much, man.
Thank you, my friend.
All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Young Smart Money. Again, if you guys did enjoy the show, do remember to leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. It really does help us get in front of more people with the show. It helps you hear from even more amazing guests. It just makes the world go round when you do smash that 5-star in iTunes. And if you guys want me to shout you out in my Instagram story, I am always up for that. So if you send a screenshot of your review to Apple Creator Official on Instagram, shoot me a DM of that or just tag me in it. Would love to repost it on my short story and give y'all a shout out there. Otherwise, I hope you guys do have a wonderful day, whether you're out walking the dog, whether you are at the gym, whatever you are up to on this fine day. I hope it is a splendid one, and I will see you in the next episode. Have a wonderful day. Real quick, just launched a new project called the Online Course Examiner, basically the Yelp of online courses. It is blowing up lately, onlinecourseexaminer.com. Check it out.